I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel Sains, that is my buddy Butch Rosenbalm. We are here to review the movie The Monster Squad. And yes, I'm reviewing this movie twice because I wanted to hear Butch's opinions. So deal with it. Butch, man, when did you first see this?
Joel, I was trying to remember exactly. I know I rented it in this thing 1987. I'm pretty sure I saw it 88, 89, 90, somewhere in that area, and got it from a video store. And there's a movie that people in my generation, Generation X, that love to reference, and it's called The Goonies.
Yeah.
And I don't hate The Goonies. But I think you have to see the Goonies by a certain age to form that attachment to it. And I didn't see the Goonies until like I was in my 30s. It just happened, it wasn't trying to avoid it or anything. So, a lot of people go on about that, but for me, I'll take this over the Goonies any day. I mean, these were my people. These, they were doing stuff I would have loved to have been involved with.
Yeah. Monster Squad. Basically the kids are gonna, not basically, they're gonna get together and battle Dracula, Wolfman, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, if you will, Fish Face as they call him. No Invisible Man, or is there? Sort of. I saw that. I'll tell you what. I saw this. I rented this from my mother's store. I rented it one night only because it was
really.
Yeah. I only rented it for one night, though. It was, you could rent stuff for 5 days. I told Mom I'm gonna only keep it for like one day, and I paid $5. Handed my mom $5, so therefore I rented it. Because my mom's like, "Oh, you're not getting it for free," which I didn't. So she had to run a business, right? But this is a very fun movie. I had not yet seen Dracula, Wolfman, and them meet Abbott and Costello. I had not seen that movie yet when I watched this when I was a kid. I've seen that by now. I've seen it a couple times, and I did watch The Goonies before watching this. I will say, The Goonies is for kids. It's adventure for basically, and I think this movie is too. Both movies are very Tom Hardy-esque. They actually say about the Hardy Boys, if you will. I should say the Hardy Boys. And I will say that's what I think of these movies often when I watch them, is they're very adventurous. But this movie, because the Goonies has horror elements, not quite as much as this. This movie has everything: comedy, horror, perfect timing. And I had not yet seen Bella when I watched this. I have not yet seen Bela Lugosi as Dracula. So the first real Dracula I saw was Duncan's Dracula in here. I had not seen, what was the movie in the 90s? Bram Stoker's Dracula. I hadn't seen that yet, because I don't think that was out quite yet when I saw this. But, sorry, I'm rambling. But it's a really... I really appreciate Duncan's performance here, especially after seeing all the other vampires that I've seen. Duncan really brings his own style to Dracula. What do you think?
I will put him up against anyone, including Sir Christopher Lee. And you know how much I love Sir Christopher Lee.
Yes, it is.
His Dracula is terrifying, and Dracula, truthfully, usually isn't. Yeah. You said you saw this before you saw Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm sorry. I always thought that film's overrated. It's not bad. I'm not trying to talk crap about it, but I just think that that's overrated. But Duncan Reger, if you pick one performance as Dracula by every person that's played Dracula, Bela Lugosi, Sir Christopher Lee, Duncan Reger, oh gosh, what's his name in Bram Stoker's Dracula? I can see him. I can't
Gary
think of his
Oldman.
name. Gary Oldman, thank you. And I like Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
I'll put Duncan up against any of them. His Dracula is charming.
Yeah.
His Dracula is suave, and his Dracula can be terrifying. I mean, to me, he's everything Dracula should be, and he hits the notes, and I cannot say enough positive things about him playing Dracula. It's one of the best, arguably the best performance as Dracula in my opinion.
Yeah, he did as a kid. He scared me, and I'm like, because I hadn't seen the Dracula movie yet. The only vampire movie I had saw up to that point was Lost Boys. That was it. Because again, I was just getting my mom. As I've mentioned before, the first movie my mother ever showed me and my brother was John Carpenter's Halloween. And when we saw this movie, again, my mom had sort of left me to my own devices by this point in time. She's like, with work, she didn't have time to sit around and watch movies with me. So it's like I was left to my own device, like whatever movie I wanted to watch, she didn't care as long as if I paid for it, or B, I did the chores around the house and paid for it. So it's like I got to watch this movie and I'm thinking, man, this guy is really scary. And I hadn't yet seen a werewolf movie by this time. I don't think. And so this was my first sort of introduction. This movie introduced me to the monsters, a lot of them. It's with the exception of the Invisible Man, of course. Now, I didn't know how they did Boris Karloff's The Mummy at this point in time in my life, kid. And so to see the Wolfman, to see the Mummy, to see Fish Face, the girls who get bit by Dracula and turned into his obedient other vampires, and I know now that it's sort of a take on Dracula's daughters, or the daughters of Dracula in a sense, which I like. I like how they were brought, however you want to view it, right? But I really like how they introduce each horror villain here. It's with their own sense of style, and because you meet Dracula in the past, that they messed up. That Van Helsing failed, and
Van Helsing in it too.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that this was your introduction to the Universal monsters. Truthfully, I can't imagine really a better introduction for a young person, because they're scary, but they're not like, oh my God, I'll never sleep again scary.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Dracula. And I mean, our mutual friend Patrick McRae and I, one time we talked about the film Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And we both kind of enjoy it for the fact, if you made a movie with the universal creatures or variations thereof, it'd either be Monster Squad or Van Helsing. I mean, all of them being there makes sense. All of them being there have a point. And it's just honestly, it's so good. I remember thinking when I rented this, and I think this is part of the problem with the film being a quote flop when it first came out. the ad campaign came across as this kind of a kiddie movie.
Yeah.
And not it's not really a kiddie movie. I mean, kids can watch it, obviously. I mean, it's, like I said, it's not utterly terrifying, but it can be a bit intense. But it's also, adults can watch it and appreciate and enjoy it. I would have loved to have seen what, say, Peter Cushing or Vincent Price or any of those folks if they watched this and what they thought. This is obviously very much a love letter back to those films, and they do it perfect in my opinion. Just this it's really a good film. It kind of got maligned, I think, and I'm glad to see that it's slowly over the years its fortune has changed and people appreciate it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies you can't help but appreciate because it introduces it. My mom was old enough to know who the Universal monsters were. Like, my parents knew who the Universal monsters were. My grandparents knew who the Universal. I had never seen them, and seeing them here, it's like without, again, this was my introduction to them. I really like how they introduced. I've talked about I liked how they introduced them in this movie. I think trailers, though, can be sometimes disingenuous toward a movie. Now, if they would have had a better, whoever was in charge of really doing the trailer, if they had a better person in charge while doing the trailer, they probably would have had a better result because you have to know what audience you're targeting. And I think if you just show the Universal monsters, you know exactly the audience you're targeting. You're targeting the adults who grew up with him and who not just grew up with Bela Lugosi, but who grew up with Christopher Lee. Really, I mean, even though it's not that exact portrayal, we've talked this, Duncan's portrayal is so good, you're not going to mind it. And my favorite line is Mimi the Adjourned. Dracula throwing the dynamite. But it would have did better if they had a proper trailer. That's one thing I love about Studio Ghibli most too. When they do a trailer, they know who they're targeting. And there's just studios out there today that don't know who the hell they're targeting. It's like,
a good trailer can be a movie's best friend, and a bad trailer can be its worst enemy.
Yeah. Can I tell you this? In high school, H2O had this problem. And the fact that it drew money, I think the only reason it drew money, one, Jamie Lee Curtis, not that it's a bad movie, it's not. I enjoy the acting in it and stuff. Jamie Lee Curtis was a household name. She's in the movie. She's starring in the fucking thing. And people wanted to know, why is it called Halloween H2O? Even though they were getting explained to them why it's called Halloween H2O, they just didn't. They couldn't grasp the concept 20 years after the original murders. Well, H2O, that means it's underwater. And I'm thinking, oh, Jesus Christ. So the trailer was not the best, even though it had Michael Myers in the trailer. It's like they didn't understand why the cheesy title, which I understand. But I will say that though this movie may have not have did well at the box office, rentals probably went through the roof because it's a movie I know that flew off my mom's shelf. Not just because I rented it, because I saw people rent that thing every freaking weekend, especially in October. It's that and the Halloween movies, obviously. And your friend Jason's birthday was yesterday. But
we celebrate the holiday in true spirit.
There you go. What did you think? What did you think of the Wolfman here?
One of the things I really like about this, and film is, I feel like all the monsters are true to their universal origins. So the guy, the character, I don't think they ever name him. I always just called him Larry Talbot. He's straight out of the Wolfman with Cheney Jr. and he knows what's going to happen. He's trying to, get me locked up, lock me up. You don't understand. Though I always think, if you want to be locked up, just punch a cop. Okay, they're going to throw you in jail. But the thing that I feel like is, well, not necessarily missed, but downplayed in the success of Wolfman sequels is how in the first movie, all Talbot wants to do is get rid of this curse.
Yeah.
Now, it does morph a little bit with Wolfman and Frankenstein and then House of Dracula and all those, where he just wants to die.
Yeah.
He, I think he realized that this curse will not be lifted until he dies. And that translates very much into this portrayal of Wolfman. And there's one of the things I looked up, all the creatures, they had to change them slightly to avoid being sued.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know it, Stan Winston, yes, Stan Winston designed, and I'm sure his crew too. I don't want to act like he was the only one there. All these, so it's one of those things where they do such a good job of looking at it. What is the essence of Dracula? What is the essence of Frankenstein's creature? What is the essence of Wolfman? And the Wolfman, it brings his tragic backstory, if you will, his tragic life, his tragic history, whatever however you want to put it. And it's right there, and you see it. I mean, these guys were Shane Black and Fred Decker. They were fans. They knew what they were talking about. And the Wolfman in this film, when he turns into the Wolfman, he's pretty darn scary, actually. As much as I enjoy the Cheney Wolfman, until like Wolfen, American Werewolf in London, and The Howling, I never really thought lycanthropes were scary.
Yeah.
But here you have it in The Howling. Here's this 7-foot tall human wolf talking to you, looking down. That's scary. And they do a good job of kind of morphing Cheney and the scarier Howling into this. Yeah. And I know I'm gushing. I'll go ahead and tell you this is a 10 out of 10 for me, maybe an 11 out of 10. So I mean, I think pretty much everything in this film is great, wonderful, and they get it so much right. There's a few things, but there's so much right with this film that it's so much easier for me to overlook. We've all seen films, and they're just, oh, that's that's not good. That's not good. But if you're enjoying the rest of the film, sometimes you're just like, who cares? Let's just keep going. Hey, going back to your Halloween H2O thing, in my mind, here's what they should have done in the trailer. You have your trailer, and then it says Halloween 20 years later, and then you just take the H2O and bring it down there.
Yeah, they didn't do that though. I wish they would have. Where were you?
I'm right here.
You were off collecting a bounty. Don't kid me. No.
We're not supposed to talk about those.
I'm so sorry, sir. But I agree with everything you're saying about the Wolfman here. And two, the next movie I watched after this was American Werewolf in London. And
was what?
Was an American Werewolf in London. That's the next movie I watched after this one, horror-wise. And I'm like, I kept thinking about the character the Wolfman here, in this movie, the guy who was at the phone before, you gotta lock me up. He's gonna kill your son. And I keep looking at the David guy's character in American Werewolf in London, and he's like contemplating suicide, and he's not even sure if it'll work because he's trying to determine how much of the movie is legit, right? Like the original Wolfman, because they talk about that when they're in the slaughtered lamb. Look, Universal and Lon Chaney maintain that's the mark of the Wolfman, the pentagram or whatever. And it's like, when you're getting into that debate within a werewolf movie, it makes the movie that much more fun and that much more real terms, because he's not thinking about just the movie. He's thinking about, okay, what's legitimate and what's shit, because I know I changed in the one. Like, he knows. And he's scared to death. He's not scared of just the pain. He's scared of what he'll do to somebody. And that's present in this movie too. Like, he does not, like, when he spits out, when Dracula gives him the pills, change into something more comfortable. And that's where Duncan is just like a creepy son of a bitch. And he goes and has a snack to bites the girls. The guy spits out the pills and he unties himself. He doesn't want to go to sleep. He doesn't want to go to sleep and just wait for the full moon. He wants to be free and warn somebody. And nobody's listening to this dude. This is basically the story of every werewolf's life. Of, I tried to tell anybody, but they didn't listen. By the way, Stephen Mack is in this movie. What did you think of his character?
Which one was Stephen?
He was the detective. He was the
father.
Yeah, the father.
He was sometimes being the interloper character, let's call it, where you're the adult in a kid's film, or you're the love interest to a superhero. Those roles can be hard on an actor, because you don't want you to play your character like they're an idiot, but also you can't necessarily always pick up on the subtle clues. Why did Lois Lane starts going, why does Clark Kent always disappear, or whatnot. He does, I think, a really good job, and his character is really intelligently written.
Yeah.
He's very believable. His reactions are believable. I mean, one of my favorite lines in the film is when they think the mummy museum exhibit has been robbed, and they're like, dead people don't get it, and walk away, which is a line that's also in another Fred Decker film called Night of the Creeps, which we should do sometime. He does again, everybody here does a really good job. And if your dad was a cop and stuff, the monsters started showing up, I mean, he acts pretty darn believable, I think. And for a somewhat fantastical film, let's call it that. I mean, Frankenstein, Dracula, blah, 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 all show up. That's pretty fantastic. He does a really good job. He's not an idiot. And when he finally gets, with it, he's up there, he's shooting, he's trying to do everything he can to save his family. I mean, I don't think you can ask more from a character, really, stuck in an unenviable role where he's, not, quote, the hero, end quote.
I mean this with all due sincerity. If they ever did a sequel to this fucking thing, get Stephen Mack to play the kid who grows up. Or no, Gabriel Mack, who plays the kid who grows up. Stephen's son. Because he's an actor anyway. And he's a good actor. Now, I love Stephen Mack's character in this because he's very relatable. He comes across as a dad who's who's got a kid who's very imaginative and he loves it, but no matter how much his son buries himself into the comics and into the horror aspect, he loves his son. He loves his daughter. He loves his wife, though they fight. It's a very average, at that time, picture of an American marriage. And you also sense the struggles of being a supporting husband, supporting your spouse and supporting your kids who are still in, school at the time.
There's a really important scene, I think, when the son is out on the roof watching the drive-in film, and the dad comes out, and they're talking, and he's got some burgers, and he opens the bag and and they sit there and they watch. They're trading the binoculars back in case somebody's wondering why I'm doing that, and they're watching the film together, and that that right away shows you, hey, his dad's not perfect, but his dad cares about him and wants to be a part of his interests. And I think that goes a big way in making his character very believable and very, very understandable.
Yeah, and we talk about the mummy disappearing, but he also knows that the guy they shot another night who claimed to be a werewolf, his body went missing too, and they can't find it. And when he gets that phone call, and the guy goes, "I'm a werewolf," he almost hangs up and he goes, "No!" And you see the camera turn, and he's changed, and he's got the hair somehow. He goes, "He's gonna kill your son." And it's like, oh shit. That's a terrifying moment. And that's where Stephen Mack gets his partner. He goes, "Come on, we're gonna go check this shit out. Let's quit messing around. Because weird shit is going on. Whether you want to deny it or not. Okay, a mummy going. Who the fuck steals a mummy? Okay, nobody is that desperate. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but mostly nobody. Mostly nobody is that desperate to steal a mummy. By the way, I love the introduction. Speaking of introductions, Fish Face, the creature from the Black Lagoon, lifts Frankenstein's monster's, I guess you could call it coffin, but
coffin casket.
Yeah, casket he's in, and throws it, which I love, and that's where you see the gathering of the monsters. You see the mummy, the Wolfman. I love that scene. I love the introduction of Frankenstein's monster. You see, Dracula's cane has a use of bringing Frankenstein to life. What do you think? What did you think, Butch?
Yeah, that scene where they all come together. Actually, I always thought, and I had seen. You said you hadn't seen the Universals. I had seen at least the main Universals: Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, and to varying degrees the Hammerers. So I was familiar. I want to act like I was an expert, but I always thought that the cane, even though Dracula had it, was the cane that Claude Rains had in the original Wolfman.
Yeah.
And just to tie it back into all the Universals. But yeah, when he he pulls the head back and he takes the electrodes and puts them to Frankenstein's creature and revitalizes him. I think this is the first time we ever hear the creature from the Black Lagoon called Gill, Gill man.
Yeah.
Because I think Creature from the Black Lagoon was actually still copyrighted, so I don't think they could actually say that.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with you. Probably that's the case here. But that's the thing. That's who the character is supposed to be. So that's what we're gonna call him here, because he is. I mean, he looks enough like the character. I love how they pay tribute to Frankenstein, the original Frankenstein movie, where Frankenstein finds the little girl. Except for this time, there's no murder. There's just some hand holding and a friendship forms.
Apparently, pull my notes out here. Let's see. Meets Phoebe by the water is an homage, of course, to Frankenstein 31. And according to legend, this scene was more in line with what Boris Karloff wanted to do in that scene. There's quite a few little homages, Easter eggs, whatever you want to call them. Let's see. Where was it? There's armadillos. Yeah, here it is. There's an in the beginning scene when they're at Dracula's castle. There's armadillos, which is a reference to Dracula in 31, and also the plane where Dracula first appears has Browning written inside. Todd Browning was the director of Dracula, and when they showed the map, there's a Cheney's College. So they get they do their homages and they get those in, but it's not like, okay, yeah, we get it. It's just kind of subtle stuff like that if you're a fan or if you know the films pretty well, you're like, oh yeah.
They do a good job of getting the subtle stuff in too. Again, they did their homework. It's the one thing I would want if, when somebody does Dark Shadows, when somebody does Halloween, do your homework, do your research, make sure you get, the characters right. Whether you're doing a series, if it's a movie and you're doing, not canon with the series, okay, I get it, but still do your homework. They did that here for the Monster Squad, and the kids are really relatable too. They're a lot of fun. Rudy is just a hard ass son of a bitch. I'm in the goddamn club, aren't I? Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes. I'm sorry. And the kids, I think, for the most part, get the really great lines. There's a great debate in their clubhouse about how to stop the werewolf, and one of the responses is, you kick him in the nards. And later, that's what they do, and it does. He's like, ooh, and they throw him out and with some dynamite, I believe, in his pants, and that takes care of him for a little while, but he comes back. But one of my favorites, there's a larger kid, a heavier set kid, and they call him Fat Kid, and this was shot in the 80s, so there's some, shall we say, not so sensitive names and terms, but they call him Fat Kid. And in fact, the guy you're talking about, Rudy, he stops a couple of bullies from making the heavyset kid.
Horse.
I forget, hurt or something, but at the end, when everything's going on, and all the monsters are showing up, and the bullies are in a like a drugstore, I think, and the heavyset kids, and he's like, let me in. They're like, no. And he goes and he gets a shotgun and he shoots. He shoots one of them, and one of the monsters, and they're like, Fat Kid shot him. Fat Kid's okay. And they turn back, and there he is standing at the door, and he goes, let me make sure I get it right. My name is Horace, and he cocks the shotgun, and that is just like every kid that's ever been bullied. It's like, yep, here's your moment. Here's your second to come back up.
Yeah, and it's a great scene that here's a kid, like you said, who's been bullied, and finally receipts Fish Face, the guild band. That's who he shoots, and then he's receipting his bullies at the same time. It's great writing to have to put a character over that you've sort of were making fun of earlier on in the movie, but you also know he's a part of this squad, part of this, if you want to say geek fan club or what, but it's a fan club that knows that monsters are real. The leader, Stephen Mack's son, the guy who's playing Stephen Mack's son, the monsters. But yeah, man, he does a really good job of being the leader of this club, because he's like, Will you knock it off? I'm being serious. This stuff is out there. It's real. And when they get the German man to read Von Helsing's diary, I thought is a really underrated scene. What do you think, Butch?
Oh yeah. They make a point. They call him scary German guy. Lives in a kind of scary house, and they even play it up a little bit. And he's like, he has a big butcher knife, and he's like, "They're going to regret this," or I forget the exact term. And you're like, you're supposed to believe he's getting ready to chop the kids up, and he cuts him a piece of cake. And one of the most underrated, in my opinion, moments, speaking of monsters and going to real monsters, the kids leave and they're like, hey, scary German guy's not that scary, blah blah blah. And there's a point where scary German guy, and I think that's all they ever call him. I don't think they ever give him a name. He talks about real monsters, and then he's cleaning up, and the camera goes down to his arm, and you see that he has he has a concentration camp tattoo. So he's a Holocaust, and it's a quick moment that reminds you of the difference between an hour and a half, let's say, thrill of Dracula or Frankenstein's creation versus real monsters.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it slows the film down just a little bit, just enough to ring, and then it goes right on. It's not one of those moments where you're like, okay, here's the moment, here's the point. No, it just reminds you of things, and he ends up being one of their biggest allies, and it's also an understated moment to remind you, something that you don't know, someone you don't know, so your best friend you didn't know at one time. So don't judge a book by the cover, so to speak.
Yeah, you're right, and that's the thing too. He's able to believe them because of his experience being in a German concentration camp. He survived the Holocaust. Look, listen, men can be monsters, and if men and human beings can be monsters, well, there are monsters out there that you might not necessarily believe in, but they are out there. I mean, nobody would look if we talk about time travel. We talk about time travel and stuff, but if you travel back in time before something happens, you tell somebody it's going to happen, they're going to laugh at you. You're fucking out of your mind, That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They're not going to believe you because why would they? And it's the funny thing of here you have somebody from the who came from that, who was German. He was Jewish. He's Jewish, and he was put in a concentration camp. And he knows how evil men can be, so he knows evil exists. Whether you believe in Dracula or not, evil exists. And I think that's really the character's message. Look, evil can come in any form. Really, which I love the metaphor of this movie. That's something that doesn't get presented enough with this movie, because it does have a lot of fun in it. The kids, though, you could say, are the kids lighthearted? The kids talk pretty teenager-ish, for their vocabulary. What's he say? The Wolfman, hey asshole, and the Wolfman looked, and hits him or something. It's like, damn. And the dad's so grateful. Stephen Mack's character so grateful that his son saved his life with a stick of dynamite, and they shoved the Wolfman out the window. He just hugs him. He doesn't scold him for what he said, because it's a moment, Yeah. And you appreciate it. It's, as you pointed out without the dynamite, which I love how they show the Wolfman getting put back together in this movie. What do you think, Butch?
Yeah, that's a great effect. I really like that. We didn't get to see that with the Chaney films, and until you get to the third wave, if you will, of werewolf films with the three I mentioned before: Wolfen, American Werewolf in London, and The Howling. A lot of things like that with the werewolf coming back together. It was just kind of hinted at.
Yeah.
So again, it wills it, if you will, it sticks to the mythology, adds a little bit to it, but it's kind of like, did it really? It just showed us something we probably already all suspected.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you didn't shoot him with a silver bullet. He's putting himself back together. You're in trouble now. And I love how the cops show up in this, and the Wolfman's just tearing them to pieces. Like he's like kicking their ass. And Rudy, who stole the mom's silverware and made all the silverware out of the bullets, caps him. He puts the bullet. He shoots him, and the guy's line of this is so scene stealing. Thank you. Oh my god!
I almost wish you could CGI Lon Chaney Jr. into that scene, and him do that. Just to bring Larry Talbot's story to an end. But yeah, that is in the climax of a film. There's a 5-second scene that just brings so much to it, and then what's even worse after that is after Wolfman goes through him, here comes Dracula, and he's just walking through, like snapping necks and throwing people, and there is nothing they can do. And you're like, oh crap, because it's like you start building up, okay, and they shoot one of the vampire brides and the Wolfman and the Gill Man, and you're like, okay, maybe they got a chance, and then here comes Dracula, and you're like, oh shit, game's over. And it does the climax so well.
They need to put like a voiceover sequence of when Dracula's coming, like getting ready to go through everybody. They need to get Jim Ross's voice for where he did Monday Night Raw and go, business is about to pick up. Yeah, Dracula showed up. He's going to kill everybody. That's business picking up. He does. You're right. He goes through cops left and right. And I got a theory about Dracula here. I don't think he can die the way the other Draculas could. It seems like he's impervious to dying.
Well, you look at if you presume through the universals with Lugosi, Carradine, ignoring son of Dracula and daughter of Dracula as different characters, but the Carradine character and the Lugosi, let's say that's the same character. He can't die.
Yeah.
I mean, he can be put down, but he'll come back. Same with Sir Christopher Lee. I mean, he comes back in every equal. So, yes, you've got the stake through the heart. That'll end this time. But you've got to take steps so that he doesn't come back. So yeah, I think it's just a continuation of that. I mean, I know what you're getting at, with the amulet and going into the whirlpool or whatever it is, and but yeah, I think it's a continuation, and he can be put down, but I don't know. I agree. I don't think he can be killed.
Like, no, he gets shot in bat form by Stephen Mack's character and goes to the window. But he's in bat form. Maybe he's weak in that form, so we don't know. The mummy, now, we know how Gilman gets killed. The mummy gets killed a very interesting way. Give me some slack. Give him some slack. And Rudy ties it on, and he shoots him. Shoots it to a tree, and his bandages begin to unravel. The mummy gets it first. Butch, what do you think?
That always made me think of Scooby-Doo, and maybe there's a Scooby-Doo cartoon where that's how they get rid of a mummy. I'm sure there's at least some cartoon because I feel like I had seen that before, but it was it was funny. It was in fitting with the mythology of this. One of the things I did looking this up, and somebody's like, the mummy's not very strong, and he doesn't do much, and I don't know why Dracula had him. Another person commented, well, the mummy's entire life is spent guarding a tomb. Who else would Dracula get? And I'm like, that makes a little too much sense.
Yeah, he's not phoning up his neighbor to guard his tomb. I mean, first of all, he doesn't have to phone up anybody. He could just make somebody his servant. But if you're going to choose somebody, yeah, my choice is going to be an undead mummy too, or Willie Loomis. I mean, because you can't go wrong either way. You might have to cane Willie, but it's an enjoyable caning. You'll enjoy it. So I get my Dark Shadows reference. Yeah, just a bit. Oh, sorry. Who's your favorite character in this, Butch?
Dracula, all day long, bud, all day long. One of my favorite things that I read, and I thought this was awesome. Duncan Rager wouldn't wear his red contacts or fangs around the actress playing Phoebe, the little girl, because it scared her. Before they filmed the scene, there's a great scene. I want to describe it. The director told the actress to scream when the platform raised her, and she asked when, and he replied with, "Oh, you'll know." And when the scene was done in one take, and if you've ever watched this film, or if you've never watched the film, when she screams, that's her real scream. She was terrified. And what it is there's an amulet. You got to do the amulet. The Virgin has to say it, blah, 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 to open the whirlpool. Dracula's walking up and slaughtering people left and right. And he walks up and he grabs the little girl, like with her neck between his fingers, and he's holding her up by her chin. And he just goes, "Give me the amulet, you bitch." And it's just like, oh shit. As if Dracula wasn't badass enough. The fact he's threatening this little, 7-year-old girl, and so my thought is, I wouldn't want it in the film. It's like, why don't you just snap her neck and take it? Okay. But that is one of the best moments in the whole film, because you're like, oh God, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Because they've just said nothing works against Dracula. But then Phoebe had made friends with the Frankenstein creation, and suddenly somebody comes along and grabs Dracula by the cloak and picks him up. And she had taught Frankenstein's creature a word. It's hilarious. It's so 80s. And creature picks up Dracula and he looks at me and goes, bogus. And it's just one of the greatest moments of this film. And probably the best, because it goes from the holy crap, what are we going to do, to holy crap, we're in trouble now, Drac.
Yeah. And what's funny is when the vortex opens, he gets off that metal pipe that he landed on, and he goes after the kid who's been causing him all sorts of trouble, and they're starting to fight. They're wrestling around on the ground. They're like, he's choking the kid. The kid's like, whatever. And finally, you get to see where Abraham Von Helsing grabs Dracula. The kid is saved. And it's like, and he's putting his stuff up. Dracula, after being staked multiple times by the kid, by Frankenstein, is still alive, going into the into limbo, as they called it, I think. It's like, this motherfucker's the Energizer Bunny. You cannot kill him. He's going to keep going. Duncan's character, Duncan Dracula, holds up very well in this movie. I secretly think George Thorogood's Bad to the Bone is for his character, but probably not. Probably not.
It describes him. I mean, he's the Terminator in this film. Yeah, and you described another one of my favorite scenes is, he's pulling the kid, and looks like the kid's going to get sucked in, and you're like, well, wait a minute, this is good. All the monsters are going in, but you don't want the poor kids stuck there. And then Van Helsing from the beginning of the film shows up and pulls him in, and he's like got Dracula. I know you're a wrestling fan, so ignore me for saying this wrong. But he's like got him in the sleeper hold. He's like, "Come on, buddy, come on!" And he turns and looks at the kid and gives him a thumb up. And every, our friend Patrick McRae, he wrote a bunch of. He wrote, let's see, I think there's 3 called Monster Serial books talking about various horror films. And and I think the second one he talks about a monster, being a monster kid, being a young kid that liked monster movies. Yeah. And when Van Helsing gives the main kid, God, I'm so bad with all the names tonight. Sorry. When he gives him that up, that's a thumb up to every monster kid. And if your heart don't, tug just a little bit, and you're like, dude, you got a thumbs up from Van Helsing. I mean, that's just, damn. That's like, major. If there was a bunch of monster kids sitting around, I got a thumbs up from Van Helsing. I mean, that's instant. Oh, well, sorry, we're not in your level. We're going to leave now.
All right. The character's name is Sean Crenshaw, as you're thinking about the kid. The dad's name, which is interesting, is Detective Dale Crenshaw. Robbie Kiger as Patrick Rhodes, Brent Cullum as Horace, Ryan Lambert as Rudy Colleran, Ashley Bank as Phoebe Crenshaw.
Gosh, sounds like a name that should be of a monster family,
Yeah. I think I sort of wonder Crenshaw. I don't know. That does sound familiar somewhere else. I don't know. Maybe I'm
sitting here in my head going, is that somewhere?
Yeah.
But my memory ain't what it used to be anymore. So anybody out there sees this and goes, oh yeah, that's from so-and-so guys, and say, hey, then let us know in the comments.
Who's the one news reporter that has that name, like a Shaw or something? Isn't there a news reporter with that name?
I'm Crenshaw?
Dan Crenshaw or something?
I'm on a blank, buddy.
Sorry if I messed up somebody's name. I apologize. I'm just trying to think. But yeah, this movie. Yeah, sorry. This movie is a 10. As my buddy Butch Rosenbalm pointed out, it is damn sure a 10. From beginning to end, you will not be bored with this movie. It's exciting. It's fun. And yeah, if you watch this, it's just something you can watch with your kids. You really can. Now I watched.
I'm going to pull one of yours. What's your favorite scene, Joel?
Oh God, there's so many I love. My favorite scene is when they asked Rudy what he's going to do, and he has the bow and arrow. Because remember, early on, he stole some stuff. He stole bow and arrows. He stole so. I'm guessing Rudy probably has a criminal record and doesn't give a shit, which I like. Which I like. I don't give it. I don't care if Rudy does because I like the character, and it's like the fact that they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm in the goddamn club, aren't I? And he just shoots the first woman. It's like, yes. This is the point that the leaders have been trying to make. We're a fucking club. We're a team. We're Monster Squad. And Rudy is the one who's like getting it finally. Even though everybody's...
Rudy wins because he wants to look into a girl's bedroom that their clubhouse is positioned.
Yeah.
So he's not like actually, he knows monsters. I get the impression he if he was younger, he would be in there with that group. But yeah, he's kind of the juvenile delinquent. He probably does have a short or small criminal background. But yeah, that is a really good scene because the crap is going down, and he's got the cigarette in his mouth. He's like, I'm in the club, aren't I? And he just kind of throws it down, and he does his thing, and you're like, Holy crap! He is in the club.
And I think underrated, really, if you get into underrated scenes, the Shadowbrook Road house, which was set design, as Bobby Lugosi pointed out with us for Friday. Man, what a creepy house, and what cool scenes they got to do there. Just awesome. That's where the Wolfman gets kicked in the nards, as Butch mentioned previously. Wolfman
got nards.
Yeah, Wolfman's got nards. Yes, he does.
That is in the Goonies. They a lot of people that are big fans of Goonies will say Goonies never die, and us fans of Monster Squad, will say Wolfman got nards. I tell you, another scene. It's not my favorite, but it's a very quick scene, but it's actually kind of chilling. Dracula has figured out where the Monster Squad's club is, and he's standing there. He just lights some dynamite and just throws it in, just walks off, and he doesn't care if he kills someone, he doesn't care if he hurts, and it's just like dicks. Every moment for Dracula is just another step up. You're just like, that to me. That is what Dracula should be in a film. You should be like, Dracula shows up and you're a regular human. You're like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. What are we gonna do? Oh crap. That's the way, because that's what we are to him. We're cattle. We're nothing. We're something to feed on and move on to the next one. We are beneath him, and that's the way it should be, at least in my opinion of Dracula.
There needs to be a Dracula movie where the servant's like, do you appreciate what I do for you? No, you're my bitch. That's what you are to me. That's what we need for Dracula.
You are here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's one of the coolest vampire Draculas I've seen. He nails it, and he delivers something that really, as much as I love Lugosi and Christopher Lee, he brings something a lot more sinister to that character. And,
oh yeah,
great actor, talented as fuck. But man, I get why this didn't get a follow-up, but it's a movie that is fond in both our hearts. So, is there anything you want to add before we go, buddy?
Just one last little bit of trivia. Apparently, according to IMDb.com, the Wolfman face is based on Stan Winston.
I believe it.
They said he was very involved with the makeup for the various creatures, but in a good way. It's Stan Winston. Why wouldn't you want him involved? The man that created the Terminator. If you don't know who Stan Winston is, but that's a whole nother video. Just go to Wikipedia and look up Stan Winston. And if you've watched a horror or sci-fi film in the last 30, 40 years, he's probably been, and if it's a good one, he's probably been involved with it.
Yeah. There is a movie. I don't know if we've covered it, but there is a movie. What's that movie you mentioned today?
Night of the Creeps.
Night of the Creeps. That's something we do have to cover. But another movie, I'm pretty sure we've done it. I don't know. I'm all tip. We do need to cover Dawn of the Dead, the original.
We remember that's the one that me and you and Patrick tried to do, and we went to Zoom.
Yeah, we nailed that.
And
we nailed that fucking video too.
That Joel, I was thinking about that this past week, and I was like, that it still makes me a little sad because I feel like that first one. I think that was our best video ever. I realize I'm kind of biased because that's my favorite horror film, but man, I felt like we were all on fire. and that was such a great video. And I'm so mad at Zoom for losing that. And
I was like, because it should have been there when I was done recording, and I'm like, where is it? I'm like, no, it wasn't there. I'm thinking, what the fuck? I was mad. I was screaming. My wife's like, Are you Julie thought I was running a low sugar. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, Zoom lost my recording. She gave me like a pity head hug, like she hugged my head and like there, and I'm like, but it was so good.
I don't understand.
Yeah, but thank God for my wife.
It's the way it is sometimes. But yeah, that was a disappointment.
How about 2 weeks? Sorry, how about in 2 weeks we do Night of the Creeps?
Okay.
We'll do.
My wife will upset with you making her watch that, but that's okay.
I mean, we could. We could make her watch a Jason Voorhees movie again. I'm sure. We've.
Do you want my wife to come find your house?
I mean, I'll give her the address. I mean, I don't give a shit.
I'm pretty sure Night of the Creeps may be on Tubi. I'm pretty sure it's free somewhere. If you're not familiar with it, it has one of the greatest taglines on the old VHS tape. It shows this guy and he's like wearing a tux and he's got flowers, but his eyes are glossy, and it says, "Congratulations, girls. Good news, girls. Your dates are here. Bad news, they're dead."
That is awesome. Shout out to the lovely Jill Rosenbalm. Thank you to my buddy Butch. I'm glad we got to do the Monster Squad. This was awesome. It is a damn sure 10. Butch, have a good rest of your weekend, bud.
You too, bud. See you in 2 weeks. Appreciate it.
See ya. Bye.